Hello everyone, my name is El Parnaso, and after this video you're gonna learn how to side deck against dimensional shifter decks. Having said that, our main focus in this video is going to be around the Tenpai Dragon deck, because yeah, there's Sprite and Flow and Trees, etc. But for meta reasons, we're gonna try to mainly focus on the idea of how to play around the Tenpai environment. Before starting, I just wanted to clarify that I'm using as an example the deck list that I used to win a pre-banlist regional, even though this is a post-banlist version. If you want more information about the radius and why some choices were made over the, for example, Dark Beckoning Beast engine, you can see the deck profile in the description of this video. Okay, now, first, let's get real. If you get shifter in single one, and you don't have this card and only this card, well, the reality is that if you don't want to lose 4 cards on your hand, you're only gonna leave this. Okay, like first get that out of your chest. That's something that's just going to happen. Okay. As you can see, there's not that much that you can do about Dimensional Shifter with your own engine and only your engine when you're playing Jubel Fiendsmith. Not only that, you're losing basically the Fiendsmith part of the deck and you have to play only with the Jubel parts for that turn. So a solution against the card is not going around that route. That's why I think we have to focus on how our non-engine can help us after we get Dimensional Shifter. Before we do that though, there's something that I wanted to discuss real quick, and that's the mind game that Shifter involves in a lot of games when you actually are losing to yourself instead to the card. Because there's very common that you go to a tournament and ask people why they lose. Oh, I just got Shifter. Yeah, I just got Shifter. Yeah, Shifter lucky, blah, blah, blah. But when you think about it, if you're going, for example, to the next YCS, I think is Lille and then Chile. If you go to any of those YCSs and you're playing a tournament of 8-10 rounds, let's say as a promedium that you got Shifter like 3 times, because come on, let's be real, there's not that much Shifter. There's a lot of Shifter decks, but there's a lot more Fiendsmith decks, for example. So the chances you face a Shifter deck against the chances you face a Fiendsmith deck are very low. It's gonna happen, but are very low. So let's assume just 3, okay? You got Shifter 3 times. Those 3 times you lose the single automatically just because they threw the Shifter. Okay, like. However, how many rounds you actually play in that tournament? If there are, for example, 10 rounds, you play approximately 20 to 30 singles. Are you telling me that from those 20, 30 singles, just because 3 times you got Shifter, those 3 singles were enough for you to not qualify to the next step of the tournament? Not only that, of those 3 times you got Shifter, how much the state of your mind playing after you got Shifter affected you in your way of ultimately play? Because if you're thinking only of, oh, how my opponent is so lucky, then you're gonna stop thinking about your plays, about the game environment, and you're gonna lose more advantage than the Shifter itself gives to your opponent. So there's just some thoughts to think about. Maybe just don't blame luck all the time, right? Shifter is not a card that I think is to complain about, but to play around. Not only with the idea that I'm about to show you with the non-engine, but with your mentality, having these things in consideration. Having said that, you have 2 choices against the fact that I just told you. You can either cry about it, or you can play around it. And that's exactly what we're gonna try to do. We are going to focus on Shifter's biggest weakness, and that's that they still have to win the actual game. Like, they still have to actually win to beat you. Like, take out life to 0, whatever, but they still have to do it, right? And that's when, especially against the Shifter Tenpai deck, this is your best friend. Like this card right here. The best explanation that I have around this card against Tenpai is that it's like Nibiru against Snake Eye back in the day before the Fiendsmith stuff. Because if you only have the Nibiru, you're like by itself against the Snake Eyes, you aren't going to prevent that much. It feels like a Bailer, like a normal hand trap. However, if you have specifically the Nibiru with a Bailer, with an Impermanence, etc., the Nibiru really felt strong, like that strong. like when the first time it came out. So the logic behind this against Tenpai is that yes, having it like alone, it still allows your opponent to OTK you, but if you have it with a Nash, with an Impermanence, or with a Phantom of Jewel, it guarantees you to live. Even if your opponent plays properly, like even if they play to the best of their abilities with the deck, you're still going to live. So you're trying to attack directly that weakness of Shifter, that if you still live, you still have all the resources to play with your graveyard the next turn. And that is why we are making the hand trap approach against the Tenpai deck, because the deck is already a hand trap approach, so we just have to adapt some things there and there, you know? And this is how you do it. You use 3 Purulia because they summon a lot from the hand. You use 2 Phantasme because you're gonna send them first, and they're gonna summon the Seal. You're gonna put the Duster and the Cosmic because if they use the Power Filter version, you instantly lose. And the most important hand trap besides the Dogwood, you put the other 2 Murner because first you can use it around Shifter, the same way the Purulia, the Phantasme and the Dogwood, but most importantly, besides the Ash Blossom, this is the only hand trap that you can use to interact with the Seal summoning the Kwakimeru Draco, which is another card that you instantly lose. So if you don't have the Ash to negate the Seal effect, you will still have the chance to have any of these 3 to negate the Kwakimeru Draco once it's summoned. And this is a really, really big plus that you need to respect, which is the reason why this deck don't have Effect Bailer, because you need the space to play 3 of these. And this is how you side deck. First you take the extra width, this because it needs a graveyard, this because it's redundant, this because you don't actually need it, this because you're going second, this because it's redundant. You're gonna take this because even though they still play hand traps, it's not useful against the Shifters. So if this is not useful for one hand trap that you really want to face against, it's not really worth it anymore. So you just take them out. You take this because even if they don't Shifter you, it's not really that good against the deck. The same as these ones, you can activate it around Shifter, but it's not worth it to have them anymore. So after all those 13 spaces, you just put this, this, and this. And as you can see, you're going to have 3, 6, 9, 11, 14, 17 hand traps. All of those, only 1 can be activated around Shifter. Also, I think the merit of the way of this approach is built is that you still have outs to other Shifter decks, like Purulia is excellent against Flow Wanderers and Sprite decks, as well as this being really good against the Sprite decks even though they Shifter you. This is good against some Flounderies and some Sprite approach, especially Sprite right now, because after side deck, they are not going to think that you still have this, and they're gonna make the Link 2, the Spring, before the Gigantic, so they expose them to Nibiru really hard. And against the Sprite 2, depending on the version, if you see there's a lot second dependent versions that you're gonna play against, you can also side this, because if they don't kill you, the Sprite end board is really weak. So that will be for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please subscribe and share. This Nightmare series is still ongoing, so stay tuned. Thank you.